The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. Hello, hello. Do we have some folks out there? We're going to start in about 1 minute. So feel free at any time to unmute yourself if you'd like to introduce yourself or have a question as we're going. Anything that you need to mention. Oh, good morning, Stephanie. How are you today? All right. Yes, we do have a chat feature, so please feel free to open that up at any time, ask questions, or again, this is a real informal, so you can even unmute yourself and ask questions. So pretty informal here. All right, Michael, welcome. I think we were waiting for a few more, but we can go ahead and get started because your time is valuable. First off, thank you so much for joining me this morning for this next installment of the Byte Size Seminar Series. I'm going to talk about AP Computer Science principles, particularly this morning. So please have questions ready, concerns that you have. If I don't answer any of those questions, then please do ask as we go. Or if you need me to stop to clarify something, I'm more than happy to do that as well. Okay. So here is my information. If you need to get a hold of me for future reference, email is probably the best, but I am in and out of my office, so you're welcome to call as well. Okay, so here's our quick outline. I'm going to talk about Senate Bill 200, the deadline as CS principles will fall into. Standards and a potential pathway that you could use in your courses. Who is AP Computer Science Principles for? Okay, because sometimes that's a misconception when we see AP in front of a course. So this is a little different. I'm going to talk about some other items of interest: funding, licensing, PD as it connects with CS Principles, online teacher training portal that's available, some resources, and then just highlight very quickly about the EdTech standards revision going on right now. All right, so my apologies if this is a review for you, but Senate Bill 200, here are some of the key points of the bill that passed in the last legislative session in 2017. And you can see quite a range of things. We are plugging away on it. We are current with everything that we had as far as implementation timelines up to date. The next one is 2020 with CS as entry for higher ed, and then 2022 for all high schools offering computer science. So just because that's the deadline doesn't mean we wait until that deadline. We're putting all these processes in place right now. So one of the things that AP Computer Science Principles can focus on is this component to the bill that all high schools must offer computer science. So we'll talk about how this relates to that. All right, so standards and pathway. So many of you have probably seen this graph before because I use it quite often to render some understanding of what the terminology of the bill versus what we actually are using out in the field. So the bill refers to computer education and technology. And what that is it's like a tree, two branches. One branch is our technology standards that we've had in place since 2010. And then the other branch was our new K-12 computer science standards that were written and put through legislation, into regulation, this year. And they're both built off of national standards, which lend some foundation to them, as a lot of the other states in the nation are building theirs off of these national standards as well. A lot of research has gone into those national standards to help us. Okay, so a sample pathway that districts might consider to choose to cover all the points that were put in regulation, that being the standards, the K-12 computer science standards and the technology standards. So you can see where computer science principles fits into the mix there in some districts. Some have chosen to offer it to all of their freshman class to give them that foundation before we send them off out into the world with the knowledge that we give them. But you can see how the standards build upon each other, starting in kindergarten all the way through. We've got some districts have chosen in middle school to give that computer science and applications formal digital literacy half credit course, so that can remain in middle school as well. A little side note, those standards are high school standards because it is a high school graduation requirement. So there are some middle school standards in there built in for continuity of subject matter, but they are primarily high school standards. So if you're putting it in middle school, just recognize that. And then we've got our computer science principles around the freshman year. And if you do that, then that provides opportunity for students who really do have an affinity to computer science and want to go on with that, then they can still have time in their high school career to continue on the CTE pathway of computer science. And so that's what's in there. So the nice part about having the CS principles there for all students to take in the freshman class is that two things. Excuse me. It was satisfied that every high school to offer computer science course by 2020. Okay, that's in there. Everybody's getting it. You're offering it. Okay, check. That one's off as well. But another portion of that requirement states to increase attendance, participation of females and other underrepresented minorities in computer science. So by offering CS principles to all freshmen, these schools and districts that are doing this, they're hitting those benchmarks as well. As if you are offering it to all, you're hitting all demographics. So that's kind of a 2-for-1 there. So I think that's why some schools and districts have decided to do that. All right, so you typically in the past, AP courses, advanced prep, have been for what we would call our high flyers. So the students that do particularly well in writing or in math are recommended by the current year's teacher to go into AP course, or they score very highly in this, that, or the other. And so they have this certain aptitude. And so that's typically what these AP courses have been known to be. So when we're talking about computer science principles, however, this is a different course that the College Board has created. It is actually a course that is for everyone, and I will explain. So here are the computer science topics that the AP Computer Science Principles course goes through. It talks about the internet, how it works, how does data travel across it, computational data, societal impacts of the internet, which is huge, as we know. It goes on to talk about digital information. I say this often, and I believe it is so true, that if our students truly understood that image that they take on Snapchat, that they probably shouldn't have taken, and then send it out, does not disappear, that if they truly understood how digital information is created and sent across the wires, maybe they wouldn't take it. Maybe they would think twice. So this is probably one of my most favorite topics that CS Principles covers. So using digital tools to manipulate and communicate with data. It also touches on an introduction to programming, so learning computer science concepts, looping, um, functions, conditionals, things like that through programming language while creating apps in a fun way using an app lab. They go on and talk about big data and privacy, so public policy, law, ethics, encryption, data security, all of those things that they need to know. Why are my bank accounts getting hacked and I have to keep changing my debit card all the time? Those kinds of things. It also prepares them for the AP exam through performance task supports, and then more building through programming and using data tools after the AP exam is over. So it's just a lot of information about the world that we currently live in. So I would suggest that AP Computer Science Principles is for all students who live in a world of algorithms, smartphones, robots, self-driving cars, and other things that haven't even been created yet. And I would even say that CSP is for all of us, teachers included. That this is just knowledge that we need to have of the world that we live in. And it is kind of scary that we graduate a group of students year after year after year into this world, and they have no clue how it's working. Do I have any questions or concerns up to this point about who AP Computer Science Principles is for? Because I know I get questions all the time from counselors and even some teachers misunderstand. What are the concerns that you have where you're at? Feel free to unmute or to type in the chat. Okay. So I know there are specific reasons that brought you to this training surrounding APCS principles. So please put those out there. Let me know how I can support you with this. But I'll go on. So there's some other items of interest. There has been funding provided through the bill, FY19 funding. This is the money that has been distributed for this school year. We are hoping to get further funding. We're working on that right now with certain legislators, and so fingers crossed. If we use all our funding this year, it will definitely help us have a good base for wanting some more to help support these initiatives. I would like to touch on our licensing endorsements. So we have changed things slightly. There's a lower endorsement and a higher endorsement. Each of those has the same 2 foundational courses, and then each endorsement adds on either 1 for the lower or 2 more courses for the higher. And I have a detailed endorsement descriptions here that say, so for example, if I teach this course and I need to, here we go. We've got all of the requirements here for the endorsements, the lower endorsement and the higher endorsements. And that's on the STEM Hub site. But let me go on to this one. So this is kind of a quick breakdown. The lower endorsement is needed if you teach what some districts are calling the old digital literacy course, that half-credit graduation requirement. A lot of them are calling it computer science and applications now because that's more of a representation of what's in the course with our now required 50% of computer science. And then for teaching the CTE pathway is the advanced computer science endorsement. You can take 12 credits. Again, notice that the methods to teach computer science and CS concepts are the same for both. You just add 2 more. Or you can successfully pass the practice exam and then you also acquire the endorsement through that. So I'd also like to mention that the CS Concepts course, if you take training through RPDP in either Discoveries or CS Principles, that will count for this class as well, because they do have an option where you can receive college credit through UNLV or SUU. I'm not sure. You'll have to check with them for this course. So that's nice. Here's the link I wanted. So if you have an educator who is teaching, let's go down here to high school. If you have an educator who's teaching, say, that computer science and applications course, that half-credit course, they've currently been licensed as computer literacy or computer applications. They do not need any additional endorsement. Okay, they have already been endorsed, so no changes there. I would suggest that they get some training in computer science to help with that other 50%, computer science and computational thinking, so that they are prepared. New teachers teaching that half-credit course for the first time, they need to get that lower endorsement, because that will help them. If you have computer science embedded into your science and your math courses with your teachers, they're already licensed to teach science or math, no additional endorsements required. This is happening a lot in some of our smaller districts, embedding it right into everything. I'll just throw out there the computer science, K-12 computer science standards provide connections at the bottom of each grade level or grade band that tie directly into your math, science, ELA, or social studies. So that makes embedding very, very easy. And then finally, you've got, if you have an explorations course in computer science, discoveries only at middle school, then as long as the teacher's gone through that training, for that year-long training through RPDP, upload their certificate to our online licensing system, then their administrator and the state can see that they are endorsed to teach that class only, in addition to whatever the regular subject area. However, if they go on to teach robotics, web programming, or in high school, if they're doing the CTE pathway, then they must get the appropriate endorsement for that. So just as with discoveries, if a high school teacher is only teaching CS principles, and say they're an English teacher, they've gone through the training for APCS principles, then they can go ahead and upload again and into the system, and then they can be qualified to teach that only. Okay. Again, if they're going to go on for the pathway, they need to get the full endorsement. So all of this talks about that. Any questions on endorsements? And here's the exceptions that I mentioned. Okay, because one of the things that's important is when we have this new legislation, it requires teachers. We need folks that are able to teach these courses, and sometimes endorsements and such can be very restrictive, causing a pipeline shortage for administrators and other folks. So this was a way to free that up to meet the requirements of the bill, but also provide support, needed support and skills for the teachers themselves. All right. So again, if you currently are endorsed to teach these things, you do not need to get relicensed, but PD is definitely recommended. So where do I go for PD? So trainings and courses are offered through RPDP. We have down here in the south, we've got a hub in the northeast and one in the north. And these are the folks that you would reach out to. Also, Touro University, Nevada has an online program. There's course offerings there, and there's a link here. You will have access to these slides. I will upload them to the STEM Hub site so you can access these links. Okay, there is also an online teacher training portal, and this is focused around the computer science standards in general. helping the teachers unwrap the standards, gain an understanding of how they all work together, how the progression is. This is really important because when you get to that high school level, you want to see how they all tie in with the CS Principles course, and really how this is a way for a high school to meet all of these standards in one course. So that is available. It is outstanding. We also have the Computer Science State Strategic Plan. There's a link to that. It will help as you're building out your district, your school, your charter, your plan on how you want to implement computer science across the grade levels for your students. It will be helpful to see what the state has in mind, what their strategic plan is in the bigger picture. So this is available to you via that link as well. For 2018, from when the bill was signed, June 15th in 2017, to the same time in 2018, I put together a report, a status report of everything that had happened so far in the state regarding computer science initiatives. We've done even more since this status report was put out because there's always so much going on. But this is a great resource for you if you're an administrator, to speak to folks in your district and all the way down. So I mentioned the STEM Hub site. If you don't already know about this is an incredible place for you to go and find all information regarding computer science in the state. Again, on the Educators tab, I will have these recordings for you and this slide deck. Computer Science Teachers Association, we have a Silver State chapter. We haven't had one in our state before, so it's very exciting. We have a president there who's listed, free membership for all folks, your teachers, your administrators, district folks, industry, anyone who has a passion for computer science, wants to gain a greater understanding, wants to support their teachers, their schools, their students. These are mentoring resources. They have regular meetings. They may at some point have student competitions. I mean, they're just starting out, but they are trying to build their membership so they can see how they can support our state. All right, and one of the things I wanted to let you know is the education technology standards that we have in the books right now are dated 2010, so those are currently going under revision process. They should be completed sometime in the fall of 2019. We've got this legislative session coming in the middle here, so that's going to delay the entire process because we have to get down to the Legislative Commission on Education for the passing of these standards, and they will all be in session. So, but one of the things that will happen once these are completed, the technology standards will join with our computer science standards, like that tree that I mentioned earlier, and become one set combined in one packet called the Nevada Academic Content Standards for Computer Science and Integrated Technology. It's a fantastic title that our writing group came up with. All right, so that's a lot of information. This is your chance now to ask questions. Let me know what's going on, what your particular concerns and needs are, especially regarding AP Computer Science principles. So the time is yours. Please ask away. Okay, so no questions? I did really well on that. Answered everything you could possibly want to know about CS principles. That is fantastic. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining. If you do think of questions after this is over, because I do that all the time, please do reach out to me at my email, and I will make sure that I can get those answers to you and research them if I don't have them. But please make sure that especially your counselors who are working directly with the students at the high school level have this information, especially that they understand that AP Computer Science Principles is for all students, not just who is considered to be the high flyers. There's no recommendation needed, and that all students should have access to this because, again, like I said, all of us, all of our students are graduating into this life in the 21st century, and these are foundational topics that they should know, foundational skills that they should build. I've often said this, computer science is the great equalizer of this generation, just like math and reading were in past and still are today. So this really needs to be something that is taught on a regular basis. So if you can please pass that along, that would be fantastic. And I will see you all at another bite-sized seminar. Thank you so much.